Hi everyone, this is Andy Wheelock. I'm with the OETC 16 team here for the Ohio Educational Technology Conference, and with me is one of the featured presentations, someone I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and that's Jaime Casap, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Jaime? Okay. Yep. And just to give you, well, a little heads up for those of you going to the conference, Jaime's presentation is going to be Wednesday, the 10th. Of February, and it's going to be from 9 to 10:30, so make sure you join it. I've seen Jaime's presentation twice and at the NiceGate conference and have enjoyed it every time. So to give you a little background about Jaime, he's the Google's Global Education Evangelist. I love that title. You're a member of the Google for Education team, an advisor to the Google Fiber team, and the Google Policy team, and the Google Capital team. And if that's not enough, you serve as the board of directors of the Arizona Science Foundation, New Global Citizens, and you serve an advisory role to dozens of other organizations focused on education and access. So pretty busy. And let me dig right into that first kind of, I guess, heading of your introduction. So you're a member of the education team, the Google Fiber team, Google Policy team, and Google Capital team. Can you, for the layman and the geeky person, can you tell us what all that's about and maybe what is your job like?
Well, I should probably rewrite some of that because really what it comes down to is my job is to do two things. Well, a couple of things, but two main things. One of them is to work across all the various teams at Google that have and touch education in some way. So whether it's the Fiber team and some of the education programs that they are involved in, or whether it's Google Capital and some of the ed tech companies that they might be interested in investing in, or whether it's any of the other teams that are doing things inside Google that are focused on education, my job is to be there as a source for them, to be there as a resource, as a subject matter expert. I get a chance to be out in the world, in the education world, and like you said, in the New York conference that I spoke at back in November, and I get a chance to be out in schools and meet with educators, meet with leaders in education, meet with superintendents and so forth. And so I am fortunate that I get that firsthand knowledge about what's going on in the world, in the education world. And so my job is to work across all the various teams to do that. I also work with our enterprise team, our group of great people who are out there working with superintendents, working with tech directors, working with curriculum directors on figuring out the best way to use technology in education. And I'm there as a resource for them as well. And we'll have a couple of the members of the team participating in the conference as well, running some sessions that dive a little bit deeper into some of the products and services that we have. But my job isn't necessarily just to think about what we do in education in terms of just Google, but instead to focus on the broader aspect of education and the role that technology plays in the future of education.
It sounds like, from what you're describing, are you on the road a lot? Are you out at conferences?
Yeah, I'm on the road a lot, and I'm actually tomorrow morning headed down to EduCon, plug for EduCon, in Philadelphia, and that's another conference I'm involved in, and I'll be participating. I sit on one of the boards that's not in the updated bios. I sit on Inquiry Schools board of director, and that organization is focused on bringing inquiry-based skills into schools, and Science Leadership Academy is where the conference takes place, and so I'm participating in that. So yeah, I'm on the road a lot. I'm out working with either superintendents or tech directors. I'm out attending conferences. So it varies, but yeah, I spend a lot of time out on the road.
Google, of course, is maybe even it's mythical in its implications, but the work environment at Google is supposed to be, innovative and I think a place that, again, I'm looking at it from the outside and from hearing things, but a place where it promotes fun and innovation. Is that your sense from being inside Google? I know you're on the road a lot, but is that really what drew you to Google, or tell us about the work environment?
So So first, I should welcome everyone into my house. This is not a Google office. This is the what you see behind me is what's inside my brain most of the time. It's a disruptive place. It's my office where I live and work in Phoenix, Arizona. But I do get to spend a lot of time in Google offices, and I've been at Google for 10 years. So I've watched us grow over those 10 years. And the great thing about the culture is that it hasn't shifted that much. As we gotten bigger, you obviously deal with some of the bigger company issues. But the main focused on employees and giving employees the empowering employees to focus on the problems that they want to solve is very clear, still there. So when we think about innovation, sometimes we think about fun. Sometimes we think that you're creative. You have to like paint your walls red and all those other things. But the reality is, innovation is hard, and innovation consists of a lot of discipline. So we do have very structured project plans. We have very structured performance review processes. We have very structured recruiting and retention policies and programs in place, and that helps us drive the innovation. In terms of the environment itself, I think that they try to make employees comfortable. And yes, every time I go up to Mountain View, or if I'm in a New York office or any of the offices, you get that vibe where you can do a lot of different things. There's lots of activities, and so whether it's some of the cafes that we have, to the pool tables and the foosball tables in the New York office, it's hard for me to walk on the fourth floor because they have Miss Pac-Man machines, and I will get lost playing Miss Pac-Man for 2 or 3 hours because it's the game that I was the best at, and so I'll play that game forever. And so all those things are there, but they're there also to help. And here's the last thing I'll say about that, kind of the perks that people talk about when it comes to Google. If you and I are working and you're sitting in a cubicle over here and I'm over here and I need your help with something, if I go over to you and say, hey, Andrew, can you help me with X, right? I'm taking you out of your zone of what you're working on, and now you have to come help me. And sometimes, that most people are very positive when it comes to that, and I totally, get that kind of relationship because we live in a collaborative world. But I think it would be a lot easier for me if I walked over to you and said, "Hey, Andrew, do you want to go play ping pong, or do you want to go play some pool? Let me know when you want to take a break. We can go play around the pool or something." Then it changes the dynamic of the interaction that we're going to have, right? Because we're both benefiting from the activity that we're going to play, and then I can ask you questions and I can get you more involved in what I'm working on. So it's very strategic in terms of how things are set up, and the benefit for me from not just working from home is the benefit from working from home is that when I do go to a Google office, I still feel like it's brand new to me, right? I'm not used to all the perks. And so I still feel like it's part of a startup for me. So I get excited every time I go. Although they did get rid, it's a bait and switch. When I first joined Google, the micro kitchens were full of Lucky Charms and Cocoa Puffs and Twizzlers and Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Nice. And they switched all that now to healthy food. And it's probably a good thing, but I feel like it was a little bit of a bait and switch.
You mentioned a strategic, I guess, work environment or strategic planning and strategic organization, I guess, is the best way to put it, to kind of promote, I think, a mindset maybe of creativity. Do you think you're working with education is part of your mission maybe to bring the organizational pieces that Google does so well to promote creativity or innovation to schools?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think you're getting into like the one of the main points of my keynote. One of my keynotes that I give, and the one that I'll be doing in Ohio, is around this idea that I think sometimes we think about education and we look at it and say it's broken or it needs to be fixed, or it's terrible, teachers are bad. You hear that rhetoric, and I just don't buy into that rhetoric, because if you study and you can see a little bit of my desk and all the research and books that I read, and I dive into all the knowledge that's out there. If you dive into education and you truly understand education and the history of education, education has done amazing work in the last 150 years, right? The graduation rate in America in 1910 was 8%. Right, we just broke the record of 81% last year. The content that we teach kids today is extraordinarily more complex than it was 100 years ago, right? The United States as a superpower was built on the education foundation that we had in this country. So education has done amazing work to bring us to where we are today. And so for me, it's not necessarily about thinking about how we fix education, but instead thinking just like our education forefathers thought, what is the best model that we need? What are the models that we need in place to help students thrive in the economy that we're facing, a globally connected, network-based, knowledge-based economy? Same kinds of questions that we asked 100 years ago. What was the right model of education that we needed for the Industrial Revolution? We should be doing the same thing for the economy that we're facing. And that economy is an economy of problem solving. It's an economy of creative thinking. It's an economy of collaboration. And so what I think we need more than anything in education is this culture shift, to think about education not so much as this static thing something that we built and then like use for 100 years, but instead an innovation, a culture of innovation and iteration, that we're constantly changing, constantly innovating, constantly doing things in different ways, and that we're constantly improving, that there is no end state for education, that we're constantly trying to improve it and make it better. And so I think that comes from not just my experience at Google, but my experience at Charles Schwab, my experience at Accenture, my experience at Sun Microsystems and Motorola and all the other places, Seagate Technology and all the other places that I've had a chance to work in my career, is this idea that what we're doing is, what we need to do is take education and be innovative inside education to constantly improve and change it. And coincidentally, that's exactly the economy that we're facing. So that gets really exciting for me.
Last year, I had the great opportunity to interview a presenter last year, Danielle Feinberg from Pixar, and a lot of what you're saying kind of rings true with what she was saying as far as a work environment and promoting and having an organization that promotes, again, an explosion of creativity, but it was also built around this kind of big idea, which was, to make great movies. Mm-hmm. Does Google, and when I see the things that I've worked with teachers with Google Apps, and I see those empowering, kind of exciting features that I think help teachers in their productivity, help students, generate ideas without all the kind of roadblocks that I know, you've talked about having to walk down to the library in the past and open a card catalog, all those really time-consuming things. Does Google have a big idea as far as education, or is the big idea really to empower people?
Yeah, I think you got it. You got it right. So one, I think that it's important to point out that we use the same tools that you guys use in education, right? We use the same tools to run our business. We use Hangouts. All my meetings are in Hangout meetings. I always have to make sure my hair is decently combed every day because we don't do conference calls. Everything that we do is video. Obviously we use docs, and I just worked with someone on a project a couple hours ago, and we're all inside the doc working on it together. Obviously we use Gmail, and I live off my calendar. My calendar tells me where to go at any given time. And so we use these same tools to run our business. And so it's not that we think that the tools are what's magic. What's magic is what the tools can help you do, right? And so technology as a whole is there to support and enable great learning, to support and enable teachers in the classroom. And the tools that we're building, whether it's Google Apps, whether it's Docs or Classroom, or even the new Expeditions project, these things come from educators. It comes from teachers because we rely on that feedback and we rely on that experience that teachers are having with our tools. And so I always encourage folks who are using our tools all the time to make sure that they're inside that feedback tool and they're giving us feedback and they're giving us, I wish Google did this, or I wish Google Apps did X, right? And making sure that you're providing that feedback. It's disheartening to me sometimes when I talk to folks and they tell me, I have all this great feedback and I don't know who to give it to. And I'm like, just put it inside the tool. There's a real person, right? Like for Classroom, there's Jen Miller who goes into the feedback tool and sees all the comments and sees all the bugs or issues that are going on with the tools. And so we constantly update and improve our tools, but it comes from educators because that's where we get a lot of great feedback from.
Who inspires you, or maybe what inspires you as it relates to your educational endeavors?
That's a great question. Well, lots of people inspire me, but I would say the kind of the drive comes from this idea that education is probably the most empowering thing that we can do for people, right? Education, like I'm sure you've heard me say, is the silver bullet, right? Education disrupts poverty. Education helps families grow and communities build, and the impact, even the economic impact. Forget the intrinsic impact, but the economic impact education has in our communities is tremendous. And so I want to make sure that we're taking full advantage of that. I want to make sure that we take it seriously and that we get it right, because so many people rely on it, especially when it comes to kids who are growing up the way I grew up, right? So our students that are growing up in poverty, there's not a lot of options, right? You're either going to play in the NFL or in the NBA, or you're going to get your education, right? The factories aren't there anymore. The hourly wage jobs aren't enough to get us some economic stability. And so education becomes really, really critical and important. So I want to make sure that we're spending as much time and investing as much of our mind, body, and soul into education, because it's that critical to me. So that's where my motivation comes from. And inside that box, everyday teachers inspire me. Like, I think, I work tremendous hours and weekends, and, I'm leaving tomorrow, right? My trip starts tomorrow. I'm spending the weekend in Philadelphia at this conference with educators. Because somebody, a teacher will send me an email, or somebody send me a tweet or a direct message on Twitter and say, hey, you made me think about this, and now I'm doing this with my students, or you made me do this, or Google Apps helps me do this, or whatever that is. That's what drives me. That's what motivates me. And every time I get tired, or I'm like, I should go play golf, I'm like, I don't have time for golf. We have to keep helping the teachers in what they're doing. So that's kind of what drives me.
Okay, the final quick question that I hope will kind of maybe encapsulate everything is, I remember your presentation a couple of years ago at NiceGate, and then you showed a picture of your son sitting on the couch, and he had two devices with him, one to watch a YouTube video, I think it was on Minecraft, and the other one was playing Minecraft.
All right.
Is that the learning paradigm, or what are the lessons, I guess, behind the kid sitting on the couch with two devices?
Yeah, and I've used different pictures to kind of make that point, but the point is kind of a relevant point and I'll definitely be talking about this in my presentation, is that we have to keep in mind that how kids think about learning today is different than the way we think about learning, and how kids think about how they get to information is different than the way we think about how we got to information. Like you mentioned, the library, and that was our resource center. The fact is that kids today are growing up in a different way. And we have, instead of having discussions about whether or not we should be using technology, we should be taking advantage of the fact that they don't know any better because they're using it. So, if you think about my 14-year-old, he doesn't know that the world existed before Google. He doesn't know that the world existed before smartphones and tablets and laptops and all the devices that we have at our fingertips. He doesn't know that the world existed before Wi-Fi, right? He expects Wi-Fi to just be everywhere. And so how do we take advantage of that? And so that picture of William is a great picture because it illustrates that when we were growing up, we waited for people to teach us, right? We went and got professional material to teach us, and that's still relevant and it's still out there and we still need that. But the reason I took that picture is because it showed William learning while he's doing, right? He was learning how to do something and doing it at the same time. So it kind of encapsulates two things, right? The one is that we need more doing, right? It's not just sitting and reading and memorizing and those things. It's more about doing. And the other thing is that these kids think about learning and they can get to access, and they have access to resources, and they have access to lots of different things from anywhere in the world. And they know that. That's just the world they live in. And I tell that story about my daughter and buying the ukulele, and I'm walking out of the store and I say, hey, should we buy a book or a video, to how to play the ukulele? And she looked at me like I'm insane because she's going to watch a YouTube video. And I don't even think about it. And so as educators, we have to remind ourselves and think about the fact that, we learn in a different way. And I still teach classes at Arizona State University, And even in that setting, I know, like when I'm teaching the first semester, I'll say, what books do I need? And then I kind of question myself, like, why am I starting there, right? Because that's the traditional way that I learned. And so those are questions that we should constantly ask ourselves is, why are we doing X? Why are we doing Y? And think about the fact that students today learn in a different way than we learn, and we should be paying attention to that.
Great. All right. Do you have time for, I call these my speed geek questions. These are just kind of short, sometimes whimsical questions, and you can throw out a quick answer. How's that?
All right, let's do it. I've never thrown out a quick answer, but I'll give it a shot.
All right. I'm going to try and share my screen here so everyone can see it.
Okay.
All right. So the first question is, what's your favorite app?
We're already starting.
A tough one.
That's a tough one, because my favorite app is the one that I use the most. It's Calendar, right? Calendar to me is everything. It's where I put everything. And so whether it's a reminder, whether it's like to get something, and what's great about the Calendar app is that it pops up on my screen on my computer, it pops up on my phone, it pops up on my watch. And so Calendar, I wouldn't be able to live my life without Calendar. And it's funny because my wife will put everything on my calendar because it's the only way things get done.
Well, you've actually taught me something, because I love the find a time feature of Calendar. And I saw your time slots that you were open, and I was like, oh, I can just suggest a time from that. So
right.
Okay, so next question, we'll do a couple more. Your first storage device. So floppy disk.
This is a quick answer on this one. Is it was a it was one of those big giant floppy disks. But the one that I remember recently is MP3 players, right? And how we used to have to store music on MP3 players, and you had like 250 megabytes of space on an MTV player. And then the iPod came out and changed the world because it was the simplest thing to use. And so my first storage device was a big giant floppy disk, and I still have some of them somewhere, and I'm going to keep them for my museum. But that was my first one.
Nice. All right, last one. Oh, we got favorite app again. Let's try that again.
Somebody's got to fix that algorithm on that one.
Favorite tablet.
Oh, that one's so I have lots of different tablets. I have an iPad. I have a Nexus tablet. I have a bunch of different ones. But my new favorite one is and I have it here, is the new, I can't think of the name right now. It's the new, it's going to come to me, the new Chromebook C, right? Which is not a Chromebook, but rather a tablet. And I like this one because it's not just a tablet for me. It also turns into kind of my workstation, and I can use it pretty quickly. And so this has become my new favorite tool. So the way I think about tablets is, when I get up to go to a meeting, what's the thing that I grab? And this is usually the thing that I grab to go into a meeting because it's so quick and easy to use.
And I assume it's touchscreen?
It's touchscreen, and it's got a keyboard, and I love it.
All right. Well, Jamie, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing your presentation at the OETC conference, and the other two presentations I saw were really inspiring. So
you've
inspired me, and I know a lot of other people. So thank you
very much, Andy.
Great work.
All right, thank you. You keep up the great work, and we'll see you in Ohio.
Great.
All right, thanks.
Bye.